Autumn moves the shoreline in shades of red and gold. The ocean plays the sinking sand and echoes back for more. You came passing through my life without a sounding roar. But now that I have loved you, your heart pours through my soul. And I love you, and the moon has lost its shadow. And I'll hold you no matter where you are. I may not know how today becomes tomorrow, but you'll always feel my love inside your heart.
Just going to begin. This is still part of the prelude. My name is Judy Fjell, and I'm going to be helping host the celebration today. I'm going to start with a couple of songs that Masa inspired. The first one is called Masa's Waltz. I wrote it just after she died. And if any of you feel inclined to waltz, please just stand up and do it. They're waltzing in the back. Waltzing in the front. And I aren't any words to this yet, so just do something that's called chinning. Just kind of move it along. Here we go. The second song I'm going to do as part of the prelude is one that I call Masa's Paradise. And the irony of the title will be clearer later when I share a story about Masa's Paradise. But I stayed with Masa many times, and this is a song that came out of her guitar, which her grandson Zach is going to play today, that very guitar, but I'm just going to play it on mine here. And it's called Masa's Paradise. will you take my hand? We'll send love to the earth through the soles of our feet. We'll send love to the souls of all the people we meet on this journey. On this journey, we'll help justice to roll on down to the sea, providing the waves so that all can be free on this journey. present at all. She was just a collective delusion that we all had. Because we wanted someone in our lives that was as amazing as Masa. The phone has rung a couple of times since I've been down here in San Diego, and I just keep thinking it's Masa. What a pleasure to know her, what a treasure, what a person. And one of the great things about our meeting was that we met over music, which is a deep love of mine and a deep love of Masa's. So I get to experience wonderful music when I'm in San Diego, whether it's a bunch of us getting together to sing or dance or play, or whether it's getting to meet some incredible performers from the San Diego area. And we are so fortunate today to have with us Deborah Lee Johnson and Peggy Watson. We shared the stage here a couple, 3 times at this wonderful church. And so they are here to bring a couple of songs to us today from Masa. Deborah.
Inspiration to me for many years. I really can't even tell you all the ways, but Deborah and I both just had wonderful experiences working with Masa on the women's music camps and just making music. And so we're happy to be here honoring a couple of Deborah's songs that she selected. Exactly what Masa wanted. That's right. No surprise there. I was telling Judy a little earlier that I loved, I had never met the family before today, so I've met some of you, some of your sons. And I loved having a conversation with Masa because no matter how insane I thought I sounded, she got it. She always
something I wrote for a project called the Real Women Project, and it was really celebrating women and women celebrating their bodies not being in conflict with how they looked. And so she wanted to hear this today.
The only way I could sing this song, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Cajun music, but it's kind of this loud, inebriated style. And that was the way I could sing that, be able to sing this song. But graduated, I'm actually able to deliver it now in a less inebriated way. And Masa loved this song, so it's called I Keep Hoping. I keep hoping you'll appear more often in my dreams. I keep hoping for some kind of visitation. I keep hoping that death is not as final as it seems. I keep hoping to believe in reincarnation. Just wanna see you again. Some of you don't go ahead and sing. Can't believe how long it has been. I'm getting older every day. Can't believe you slipped away. Just wanna see you again. If you're a bluebird in Montana, will you sing as you fly by? Or will you become the wind and fly down through the trees? In 20 years, will you be dancing with some handsome young cowboy? Will you wave to me tomorrow from a cloud above the prairie? Just wanna see you again. Can't believe how long it's been. Can't believe how long it has been. I'm getting older every day. Can't believe you slipped away. Just wanna see you again. Oh, those photos that I carry are the only thing that's fading. Your memory still burning bright. A fire like you can't be put out in a heartbeat. Was that you I saw in the shooting star last night? Oh, I keep hoping you'll appear more often in my dreams. I keep hoping for some kind of visitation. I keep hoping that death is not as final as it seems. I keep hoping to believe in reincarnation. Just wanna see you again. Can't believe how long it has been. I'm getting older every day. Can't believe you slipped away. Just wanna see you again. I'm getting older every day. Can't believe you slipped away. Just wanna see you again. Well, unlike Deborah, I think when we were talking earlier before this celebration, you were saying that, you know, no matter what you said, Masa, how was it you said it? She got it. And I feel like I did have a little different relationship with Masa, which was that I think I was somewhat clueless, and she got things that I had no idea about. So, but every once in a while I was able to turn the tables. And one of those times, now Katie is here, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to send you. This is my partner Katie, she's going to help out here a little bit. But it's right here, but it'll be a minute. So, I came to visit her several times with the Wild Jam and Women hoo-ha that we created. And during one of my times that I stayed with her, I was having a little conversation with her and just enjoying the fact that, you know, 6 blocks from the ocean and 10 blocks from the bay, and what a place. I mean, this place is amazing. If I had income for a second home, I'd be here in the winter. So anyway, I was saying to Masa, I said, so how long has it been since you've been to the ocean? And there was a very long silence. And she really cogitated on that question. And she said, maybe 21 years. She just lived on Missouri Street. She had not been to the ocean. So I said, Masa, someday we are going down to the ocean or to the bay. We're going to do it. So I think it might have even been that evening. And so we got in the car. She was driving, of course. And she drove down Faneuil Street. She drove down Faneuil Street because there's access to the bay right down there. And she pulled into that little turnaround there, and there was plenty of parking. But being the New Yorker she was, where do you think she parked? In the red zone by the fire hydrant. And it was one of those gorgeous evenings. The moon had been up for a little while, and the sky was that pink and blue and purple, and the bay was gorgeous. And Masa got out of the car in that way she did with her arms, and she went, "This is paradise." So, thus the title to the song that I wrote for Masa. Now, you just never knew what Masa was going to say, of course. And even in those last few days that I got to spend with her, she astounded me with her strength. And one of the things that she was telling about was a little story about a song that she wanted to have sung at her memorial. And you all have the words to this song. And there's a special story to it, but I'm not sure how much of it I'm going to tell because I might give it to the person most affects. Channeling people's voices isn't as hard as it used to be. until she has married a man. Let's go now. Beautiful, beautiful bride. Yeah, Masa. Beautiful, beautiful bride. Eyes, beautiful, beautiful bride. I'll never love blue eyes again. Down through the barroom he staggered. Never before in a celebration of life. Held by the Lord, only Masa, and the very last words that he uttered. I'll never see brown eyes no more. Beautiful, beautiful bride. Beautiful, beautiful brown eyes. Beautiful, beautiful bride. I'll never love blue eyes time for folks to share some memories of Masa. I'm looking at my watch, I'm saying it's about 2:45, and we've got an incredible catered lunch after this celebration. And I'm sure that Masa would only want this to go on a certain amount of time so that nothing gets dry, cold, or warm. But this is a time for us to share some things with each other that would be a way to honor Masa. So I know that Matthew is going to be the first one to come up here, and I know that Zach, our grandson, is going to come up here, but we'd love to hear from any of you. And if you just be careful as you go around the edge of the speaker there, and then use this microphone up here at the pulpit. And as much as possible, according to Cindy, do not move the microphone, just lean in if you need to. Okay, so Matthew, would you please enlighten us a little bit about beautiful brown eyes?
This is so wonderful that you're all here. It's wonderful. It's hard. It's good to say all this, and it's good to see you all. It's just wonderful. I have two early memories of my mother, and I'll start with one and I'll finish with the other. My earliest memories of my mother singing to me, hardly a surprise, such a gift for song, and her song transmitted her love and her passion. But when you're 3, you don't remember everything. So it turns out that I remember, in my eyes, who knows what color they are, brown, green, or whatever, I remember her singing, beautiful, beautiful brown eyes, beautiful, beautiful brown eyes. I mean, the refrain, over and over again. People staggering dead in bar rooms? No, somehow I never connected the two. There was always a part of my mother's life I didn't know, I guess. I don't think she was predicting that for me, but never mind. So maybe that's what that was. But in terms of so much that's been sung of and so much that's been spoken of, speaks so much about what I remember and treasured about my mother. Her passions for people, her passions for family, her passion for community, her passion for justice, her passion for food, her passion for dance, her passion for music, her passion for conversation, her passion for things that are light. And where there is light, where there is life, where there is passion, where there is a desire, and a burning desire to see justice, that's where my mother is, and she's always with us in that way, always. And, well, one other thing. The music is wonderful. It reminds me so much of my mother, who took me at an early age to hear Peter, Paul, and Mary, to hear Bob Dylan several times. Yes, and to hear Chuck Berry as well. Chicken walking across the stage. It's so wonderful. So my other memory, early memory of my mother, is singing me one other song. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You made me happy when skies are gray. And I do believe, with all of you here, that she's all of our sunshine, and not mine alone, but everybody's. Thank you all for being here.
I'm Nick, the middle son. I just have a couple short items. One is as we came together on numerous occasions, my brothers and I, and absolutely when meeting various people, friends and acquaintances, it became clear to me that my understanding and my knowledge of my mother's is a very small slice, and that there was so much more to know about her. So it was great to have those conversations and hear other memories and other things that she had done and how she had impacted people and vice versa. And so so I felt really bad that there's all these gaps, and one of the things I felt really happy about was the website that Kathy and Zach had put together. And it was excellent for me myself to understand more stuff about my mother, but also for my children who had much smaller slice of her life. So I urge you, if you have time, to go to that website and catch up, because we'll get glimpses and stories now and today, but that website will be there for quite some time. So I hope that'll serve as a good tool for you. Now, of course, one of my faults here is that I'm a procrastinator. And I haven't yet made my quilt square, so. And I might also be an opportunist, so that I might take this moment here to share a small story that I think also reflects strongly on one of my mother's greatest traits, is her belief in people. And that came up in conversations. How does she constantly get people to do stuff that they probably don't think they can do, or what have you? And it occurred to me that she doesn't ask if you can do it. She doesn't ask, could you do it? She just says, will you do it? And it kind of instills that belief, oh yeah, I can do this. This is no problem. Whether you can do it or not, it's a foregone conclusion. She's already past that. So when I was much younger, my brother and I happened to be in San Diego at the same time, and she happened to be moving out of her apartment. She had a second-story unit, and she was getting out of there, and not too many possessions, but enough that she needed help, and not so much she's going to hire a moving company. And she turned to Mike and I, and she didn't say, can you do it? She said, will you do it? Yeah, of course we'll do it. Yeah, we've never done a whole house move before, it's just the two of us. But she doesn't have a lot of possessions. You rent a truck, you drive it, you put the stuff in, you move it over to the next place, it's all good. So we do that. We get the truck. We park it in the alley. Can't park it on the street, couldn't find any parking there. And Mike's upstairs, my mother, and she's packing stuff away in the boxes, and we're handling some of the larger items. And after a small period of time, she notices that Mike is always in the apartment, and I'm not. And either I'm goofing off or what have you, but she notices that the number of items in the house are diminishing, so progress is being made, but he's not leaving. I'm not coming in. There's supposed to be a flow, stuff like that. Well, it's probably about that time when she made that realization, I heard this shriek, "What are you doing?" And listen, now you gotta remember, I'm not in the apartment. My brother Mike was tossing a lamp out the window, and I was catching it, and it just seemed to us that rather than going down the stairs and around the apartment complex, we were making great progress, but so that didn't work over very well. We had to resort back to the traditional. But I think at that point, this is where the give and take came from. So her motto changed, not could you do it, will you do it, but now if it involved Mike and I, how will you do it? So, okay. But the other thing the last thing I'll mention is that she asked, I was kind of like, what is a memorial? You know, how's that different than, you know, what happens after a funeral and stuff like that? And she says, well, listen, I know this is going to happen a little bit later, you know, in time. It's not going to be so close. But it'll give time for people to get closure, you know, to get past the sadness. And her command request was that this actually be a celebration. So there's not supposed to be any tears. So and she was like trying to tell me that this is my job to make sure that this happens. I said, I can't do that. So what I will do is I will be the accountant. So if I do see tears, they will not be tears of sadness. They will be tears of joy. So everything is going to work out in accordance to our wishes. That's it.
Well, the trick was she wanted to think she was living in the woods, so she would never let anyone clean it up. Anyway, 7 years later, she appears at the door, my house across the street. Now, I could see her light when I went out every night. I could see the light when I went out in the morning. I would look in that window and I could see her sitting at that desk. There was a beautiful thing happening between us. 8 years, I hadn't seen her, I hadn't talked to her. She comes over and there's tears in her eyes and opens the door and says, Masa, what's wrong? She said, I can't close my door. Can't close the door. I says, Masa, I think, she said, no, I tried to get two handymen and they were busy, they couldn't do it. And you know, I'm alone, so I'm frightened. She says, Masa, the first thing we need to do is have a cup of tea. And we went in, sat, had our cup of tea, and I said, Masa, the door is just the tip of the iceberg. What's going on? I'm alone. And he consummate counselor herself, and here I am, you know, trying to advise her. Anyway, so we got the door problem solved, but we decided that the loneliness down below, because she was living alone, the loneliness needed a little bit of work. And so we would meet, maybe once a month. We'd meet in a shady, lovely, cool place of togetherness. And went on for a while, about 2 years. One day I said to Masa, you know, there's somebody else who wants to come with us to this place. And she said, who? I said, Lady Love. And she said, you mean platonic? And I said to myself, Masa, anyway it comes, doesn't make any difference, just as long as it comes. And so we went on together meeting, and one day we left each other, and half of Lady Love went with her, half of Lady Love came, and that little longing, you know, to be together was always there. It's always there. And over the years, I grew to know a beautiful mind. What a mind. A heart. What can you say? I was thinking of saying fat and overweight, but that doesn't work. So can't say that about her heart. And just look at today. Everything has planned down to the minute. She consummately planned stuff until the juice was out of it. She really did. But you know what? She did it with that New York sophistication. That was so sharp. You know, she got away with everything she wanted to get away with. She could get away with it. Anyway, there was a love there. There was. What I want to say is, Masa, you're still alive in my heart. You're still alive in me. One more thing. It's from Jimmy Mack.
I'm Teresa, and I'm, of course, a friend of Masa's, and I've told this story so many times, and I enjoy telling it so much. I'm going to tell it one more time. It's the story of the first time I ever met Masa. And my friend over here, Lisa Sanders, I had run into her, and she was telling me about this thing she was doing with this amazing woman, and it was this wild jamming camp. And Lisa said, yeah, I'm a singer and a songwriter also, and Lisa said, you should go and meet her. You should see if you could be one of the teachers at the wild jamming women's camp. I thought, well, do they pay? So she told me to call Masa, and I did. Masa said, yeah, come on over here. And I remember the day I was driving over there in my old cruddy beat-up truck, my $300 truck. I didn't think it was even going to make it. And I was tired. I'd had a terrible day. And I remember thinking on the way over there, I don't even know why I'm going over to this lady's house. I don't know her. I don't know anything about the wild jamming women. And I would really just like to go home and watch Oprah. So I get to her house, and I knock on the door, and Masa opens the door, and she looked like she had just combed her hair with a firecracker. Her hair was just sticking straight up. She had on a very disheveled outfit. She wasn't very friendly to me. And she said, look, I'm just cooking a hamburger right now, and I'm really hungry. And she handed me this clipboard, and she goes, go in there and fill this out, and I'm going to eat my hamburger, and I'll be in a minute. I go, okay. So I go into the next room with the clipboard, and I sit down, and it says, are you on any antidepressants? Have you been having thoughts of suicide? Do you have a history of mental illness in your family? And I'm filling it out. I'm thinking, wow, these wild jamming women are really thorough. So she gets done eating her hamburger, and she comes in, she sits down, and she's real serious. And she says, well, what seems to be the problem? Well, I have no idea about Masa. I don't know who she does, nothing. And I looked at her and I go, you don't know who I am, do you? She thought I was one of her patients. She thought I was a new patient. Anyway, I end up bursting into tears, telling her how tired I am, that I'm overworked and I'm underappreciated and I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I just fall completely apart. I never did go to the wild jamming women's camp, but I did become one of Masa's patients.
How can you follow that story? You know, when I've been thinking the last couple of weeks, like, okay, I like to get up and speak, and what can I say? There's so much, you know, where do you pick things? And I really didn't, one of the things I just, you know, she has just her you can do it attitude. It's just, I think, been one of the #1 things that has affected me. And whenever I find, you know, this is due totally to Masa, whenever I find myself, like, pulling back from something, you know, shying away, like, oh, I don't think I can do this, and I hear that little voice still, you know, do it, just do it, just do it. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I will have for my life, you know, with her. But I have two short little stories. There are 2 words that we seem to agree that describe Masa. One is food. I was part of a dining out club. This last couple of years, we had a little dining out club, and you know, obviously this was a great love of her life. You know, every month we would go out and pick something. And one time we were trying to figure out what to do for the next month, and she and I were talking, and said, well, why do we always go out and we fill ourselves up and then we never have room for dessert. You know, and how about we just skip to the chase and have a dinner of just dessert? So we did indeed have that at her house one time, and it was so cool. We just, you know, we brought the strawberry shortcake and the ice cream and the chocolate sauce and everything, and it was just so perfect. And I think some of us in that group didn't quite appreciate it as much as others, but Masa and I were in heaven. It was great. And Ruth, I got to tell our story quickly, because I know there are a lot of people, we got to move on. Ruth, about a week before Masa passed on, Ruth and I, okay, the second word in Masa's life is music, okay? Food and music. I mean, that's Masa. So Ruth, we were sitting at the table with Masa, and Ruth is Masa's first cousin once removed. Got it. And lives up in Minnesota, and Masa had been up to visit you, and they had been talking and having a great time. And Ruth was telling us the story about when they were up there, and had mentioned just casually, oh, you know, and I had in my basement a banjo, and I had a bass, string bass, or, you know, a few other instruments and everything. And Masa's eyes got wider and wider and wider. And, you know, whenever you mention musical instruments, you know, it just triggers this like, I need to know more, I need to know what it's all about. And it dawned on her that she had been up there visiting Ruth and had never, ever known that there was a banjo in the basement. Well, the night before she died, Ruth and I were in the room with her. She was lying down peacefully, and, you know, we were being fairly quiet, and out of the blue. And I think she sat up too, didn't she? She sat up. And she said, a banjo in the basement! Anyway, I'll leave it at that. I love her dearly. She'll always be with me. Thanks.
I have a secret to tell you about Masa. And I'm sure she'd go along with this. Masa was a control freak. I want to tell you, she was a control freak till the end. Because I was with her when she took her last breath. And it was absolutely beautiful. I've never seen a person die as beautifully as Masa did. And I'm a nurse, and I've seen many, many people die. And she taught me a lesson. She taught me a big lesson. She said, Judy, in her last breath, she said, you just follow the way I'm dying, and you'll have a successful death too. And you know, that's been haunting me. And I am so lucky to have known this woman. She's taught me so many things, but in her dying breath, that's what she said to me. So I'm going to have a lot to live up to. Thank you, Masa.
Hi, I'm Jake Goetz, and I was Masa's grandson, and I'm going to tell the moral of the story of this poem. Not the moral, just how it got written. One day in the library, the teacher said we had to write poems. So she gave us these refrigerator magnets, and she said try and scramble them in a poem. Well, I wasn't having very much with that, but then I saw grandmother, and that just sparked this idea, because it had been a couple weeks after she had passed. And then I got the idea for this poem, and here it is. I close my eyes to imagine her. I see my grandmother's face. She is as pretty as a rose, her dark black hair. She looks very happy. The shackles of pain are off, and she is free from the prison of cancer. Knowing she is happier is what keeps me going. She was ready to go. She surrendered to the soreness, she surrendered to the cancer, the pain is over, and now she is free. After I wrote that, I was just so astounded that I just learned that people can go peacefully. Thank you.
And I wanted to speak to Masa's capacity to handle the dark side. Although she had clients, maybe were trying to get back together and things like that, she also had people who had been, clients who had been involved in ritual abuse and very, very heavy issues. She did not shy away from that, and she stuck with people for a long time, and she went to the bottom, and she was fearless and even ferocious about it. And she brought me in. I met a few of these clients because at a certain point she would, invite me in to say, well, yes, now you've remembered all these terrible things that have happened to you, knives that were put to your throat and so on. And you need to be prepared that at some point you might also remember that you killed people too, So that would I come in to speak with the princess from Borneo who had been through all kinds of preps. And ritual abuse, and a woman with very many, multiple disabilities that she stuck with for years. So she was really able to handle all of that. And I think that was just extraordinary about it. And I want us to remember this with all the, sort of light and happiness, okay? And another thing is that I was friends with Masa for many, many years during the course of a second graduate education while I went through, philosophy of science and things like this. And I also never really saw eye to eye with Masa on the horoscope she would do for me whenever I came in telling me things were going to go well when they weren't going well. And so, she had picked a lot of pieces of epistemology and ontology from various places, okay? And to my mind, these things never fit together. But it never mattered, because what I always found in Masa's sort of review of the many people we knew and so on is that she was simply right. And how she got there, there seemed to be no clue to it. The pieces she would bring to her explanation did not seem to arrive at her conclusion, but she was just always right. So that's my contribution.
I wrote this last night. I wasn't planning to speak extemporaneously, so bear with me. When Masa turned 80, she threw a birthday party for herself, and I was lucky enough to be one of the people she invited. And she had stipulated no gifts, but knowing her affinity for Native American culture, I asked a photographer friend of mine to make a print of one of his most striking images for her. It's a nighttime photo of a teepee under starry skies lit from inside. The silhouettes of peyote ceremony participants are arrayed around the perimeter, while a ghostly figure watches from outside. And you can see a small version of it on the online memory quilt. I had it matted and presented it to her as a birthday card so that it wouldn't be construed as a gift. And this is in part what I wrote on the back. To Masa, spirit mother, sage and shaman, radiance and inspiration. On your 80th birthday, you were the gift. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I ever expressed to her just what she meant to me. It was music that brought us together, and music continued to be an underlying theme in our friendship. We went to concerts, to dinner, to song circles and plays. And our last outing together, just a few weeks before her diagnosis, was to see a show about protest songs at San Diego Rep. And although she was already showing symptoms, we sang lustily along with the performers, tears streaming down our faces. But in the 6 years or so that I knew her, there was also a whole lot more. In many ways, she was like the mother I wished I'd had. I adored her passion, her irreverence, her open-mindedness, and her gentleness. She was one of the most accepting and least judgmental people I've ever known. She was my advocate, my cheerleader, and my guide. I also came to rely on her wisdom and gifts as a therapist. Masa's friends all know just how full her dance card usually was, but she was always there for me if I needed her. When my own mother began to descend into irrationality and my brothers and I had no idea what to do, it was Masa that I turned to. And in the last month or so of her life, when another family crisis threatened my equilibrium, Masa insisted that we abandon our plans to talk about her life story in order to help me sort through what was going on. And speaking of her life story, most of us here have probably had the same experience I did, where she would casually drop some extraordinary tidbit about her past, raising my eyebrows and making me clamor for more. So for years, I nagged her to write a book about her remarkable life, and she eventually did take a class in memoir writing, and her life bio was the result. But those of us who heard the anecdotes know that it barely scratched the surface. Ultimately, she decided that she didn't want to share any more of her life with the world, and I was disappointed, but she agreed that I could write an article about her from my point of view and tell some of her story that way, and I may yet. Masa was an anchor in my life, always open to new experiences, fearless and indomitable. She was a role model, not just for how to live life well, but also how to leave it with grace. She told me the Friday before she died that she wasn't afraid of dying, that to her it was just like walking through another door. And since she has passed through that door, I wish more than anything that she was still here and part of all our lives. But worse than losing Masa is the thought that if I hadn't made a phone call inquiring about a music camp 6 years ago, I'd never have had the privilege of knowing this exceptional woman at all. So I cherish my memories and the many gifts, tangible and mostly intangible, that she gave me in our brief time together. The incomparable Cy Khan in his song Memorial probably said it best. No circle has been broken here, no one that stands alone. The threads of life so lately broke are woven through our own.
My name is Goetz, and I'm her grandson, son of Nick. And when I first found out about the memorial, I knew I wanted to celebrate her life in song. She was the first person to really inspire me to get into music. About 10 years ago, she helped me get my first guitar. She taught me how to harmonize, and since then it's just been such a fruitful part of my life, and I really have to thank her for that. And there's one more small story that I want to say. It's applicable to this song. I remember a few years back, Elizabeth was visiting, and we were all sitting up in her room, and we asked, Grandma, can you teach us how to levitate? Because of course she could, right? And so she stops and she goes, I'll get back to you on that. We always knew she could, and she never got around to doing that, but this song is called In Flight, and it's not by me, it's by Linda Perry, and it's really just, she's in flight right now, and I wanted to sing this for her.
a treat. What a treat to hear you. Beautiful song. And now, that part of Masa that was the eternal imp is embodied. Lisa Sanders, Karen.
Masa for me was a life changer. And I came to be in the Wild Young Women, I believe, because of Deborah Lee Johnson and Peggy Watson and Judy were playing, and they said, Peggy says, you gotta come down and meet Masa. So I came down and got to be with the Wild Young Women, and something happened. After that, I became a patient. You know, Masa, Karen doesn't know it better than I do. But Lisa, she said, Lisa, so good to see you. It's pretty good. So I got a call from her, and she was saying, what are you doing September 8th? And I said, oh, I don't know. At the time, I was in this big thing with maybe going out on tour with Bonnie Raitt. She says, forget about Bonnie Raitt. She's not thinking about you. You're going to be in my memorial and you're going to sing this song, Memories. Promise me. And you know we can't say no, right? No. So Bonnie Raitt next time. So this is Memories, and this is Masa's favorite song that I wrote, and I would love it if you all sing it with me. You'll know the chorus. It's very, very easy.
Deborah just wants to remind us something. Deborah, come on up and say what that is, will you?
Well, there's a, Peggy was showing me that on YouTube there's a version of Masa singing The Pirate with Peggy. Were you trying to learn it? She was teaching it to Peggy for today. The whole song's not there, but if you want to see Masa sing the pirate song, you can do it.
Okay. So hi, my name is Nancy, and Masa's channeling me and saying, you will handle and oversee the catering. With that said, as you guys wrap up, there's a beautiful, beautiful buffet from French Gourmet, all laid out specifically to what Masa wanted, specific plates, napkins, etc. So, we'll see you there in a few.
So, thanks all of you for being here today, and I hope that during the wonderful lunch that we're all going to partake of, that you take an opportunity to have a visit with someone that you don't know. Because the reason we're all here is because of Masa, and there must be something about that person that you need to visit. So this is a great occasion. Masa was a connector of so many people, so many ideas, so much healing. It's been a tremendous honor to do this today. And it was a directive, yes. But again, when I found out that Masa had cancer and was going to die, and I was in the middle of a tour, there wasn't any question but what? Pick up the internet, get the ticket, get out. And it all worked out just great, and I was happy to be part of her life and part of her passing. And one of the people I'm going to talk to is Judy Bennett again. What was it that Masa said? Judy, where are you?
Right here.
And what did she say again, one more time, about the parting words to you, follow me?
Yeah.
How'd she say it?
I can't say it as beautiful as I said it before.
Oh, we've got the video. We've got the video.
Oh, okay.
Follow me.
I'll show you something.
I'll show you how to do it. And I had my own scare with breast cancer this spring, just after being with Masa. And I wore this great bracelet that Marla made, and Masa carried me through a lot of that without the fear that I might have had otherwise. And really feel that we've met someone that, as Kitty says, we'll never forget. But more than that, she's leading us. As Richard said, she sometimes came to this church in her spirituality. But I also commend this church for seeing her, Richard and Cindy, for seeing Masa, and the Spiritualist Church for having a home for Masa. And it's great that we have this beautiful place to be in today to celebrate. So we'll part with one song, song that Masa heard a few times by somebody that she admired, the song by Pete Seeger, and we'll sing it a couple of times, and then, as I say, go out and meet one another and have a great meal in honor of